Hey, this is Matt. Once again, we're about to the videos that the paid request. It's time for Dan. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested requesting pretty much any type of videos, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for the 1995 film Crimson Tide, which I've always been a fan of. It's definitely a good, solid thriller, very well directed by Tony Scott. Tony Scott is one of my favorite directors. May he rest in peace. I really like Days of Thunder. I like Top Gun. I love The Last Boy Scout. I love Beverly Hills Cop 2. Enemy of the State. Man on Fire. Deja Vu. That's a true romance. Pretty good track record. And this is produced by Jerry Bruckheimer and Don Simpson. One thing that always makes me think of is at the time they were producing two films, Bad Boys and Crimson Tide, and they kind of let Bad Boys alone because hey, this is the bigger movie, bigger budget. This is probably going to be the film that's be the bigger hit. Then, funny enough, Bad Boys will become a successful franchise that got three movies. But Crimson Tide, I don't mind The Hunt for Red October, but I always enjoyed this film a lot more. The tension I felt a bit more in this. That's a good movie. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind that film, but this one, I think the cast involved and the what a scenario, just very intriguing. It does make you think on what you would do if you were in that situation. Because the setup is you have Gene Hackman, wonderful actor, one of my favorites. He is the commander of the Alabama. His new XO is Denzel Washington. And what's going on is funny enough compared to how it is nowadays. Russia, and there's a conflict going on, and just not the Ukraine. Here is in Chechnya, and the leader here is saying how if anyone messes with us, if anyone gets involved, we're going to bomb them. And it seems like this guy's pretty serious. So now we're at DEFCON 4, so we're going to send a sub over there in case anything happens. We get to know a bit of the characters, at least in the environment, until the shit hits the fan, and there's a enemy sub, and they got one message to launch the nukes. Then they get another message, but that message was not completed. Now, if we understand the way it is in the Navy, if that were to happen, you would go with the first order. Yeah, the second order was not completed, but again, based on their rules, they're supposed to go on the first order, regardless. But it's a movie, and Denzel is like, wait a minute, we need to know what this second message was. This is a pretty serious thing to choose. And then there's tension between the two, and it becomes a mutiny. It becomes Gene versus Denzel, and who's right, who's wrong. And you can kind of see both sides of the argument. Because Gene Hackman, if he's right, then we don't have any time to fuck around. Because if we don't, they're going to launch to our country. I want to protect my country, my family. So we got to launch to them first. But if we're wrong, you're starting World War III. So nobody wins in a nuclear war. Denzel has that line where, the only enemy in a nuclear conflict is war itself. Which is true. Nobody wins on that front. Well, I guess ask the same question to Japan and Nagasaki. I guess, in a way, we won and they lost. But I guess like in a nuclear war, both sides fire, that nobody wins. One hell of a stalemate. It's like that fucking War Games, good movie, but that computer. Maybe that's what Matthew Broderick taught us, and taught the computer that, yeah, this scenario, no matter what, nobody wins. So let's just play a game of tic-tac-toe. But Tony Scott did a great job directing the movie, where you really feel the claustrophobia, you really feel like you're inside this big tin can of a sub, and great photography. I think the outside shots for the most part work rather well with models. Once in a while, there's a bit of effects worked in there that I think they did what they could at the time. And many direct-to-video films later on would steal footage from this movie. Either Hunt for Red October or this movie, they would take footage for their own much lower budgeted submarine movies. Or action movies that somehow involve a submarine in them as well. A lot of stock footage was taken from movies like this. And the cast, like not only do you have Gene Hackman and Denzel, who were electric, like they really were wonderful together. And you feel this tension where at first there's tension, but there's respect. And then later on, like you understand both sides, but of course there's a part of you that hopes Denzel is right, more so than Gene Hackman's character. But not only do you have that, you got Viggo Mortensen, who is Denzel's buddy. You have James Gandolfini. You have, what's his name? This guy named Danny Nucci, which he definitely becomes an important character later on. Matt Craven, who I remember from the 1990 Jacob's Ladder movie. You have some pretty good casts that work fairly well with each other. I think Steve Zahn's in it, but there's only like one scene I remember him in, and he didn't really have any dialogue. This is very early in his career. Because I see him in the opening credits, I'm like, wait, he's in this? And then, I see him like very briefly, but anyway, I don't know if he has a line of dialogue in it. And speaking of which, apparently Quentin Tarantino came in to do punch-ups on the dialogue. And you can notice in a fun way, like there's a bit where James Gandolfini and Viggo Mortensen are discussing which submarine movies they like. There's some fun bits between Denzel and other characters, like Denzel and Danny Nucci. They're discussing Silver Surfer and who drew the best Silver Surfer. Or later on, this guy needs to fix the radio, and Denzel's trying to talk to him, and then he goes, "You ever see Star Trek? Remember, Captain Kirk is Scotty, and it's like, Scotty, I need more warp power because the Klingons are after him. Listen, I need more warp power. I need more power here as soon as possible, okay?" But that was fun to see. Yes, they're pop culture references, but they worked for the story, and in a weird way make some of these characters a bit more relatable. Like I said, it does a nice job of showcasing this respect but tension between the two, where Gene is kind of sizing Denzel up, can appreciate, like for example, when they looked at the sun going down, he's like, "You did good. You appreciate the view." Most heads, they talked it away. Or when they're talking about the war and who's the real enemy, he goes, "Again, the real enemy is war itself." Like these little moments that you see that Gene Hackman is deep down respecting Denzel's character more and more so. The action scenes are fairly well handled. The torpedo sequences and the explosions nearby with the effects that they had at the time. The music, I gotta mention the music. The music is phenomenal by Hans Zimmer. Phenomenal music that brings so much more of a level of epic feel to the movie. And this music was used in so many movie trailers later on. What I'm getting is that the music is phenomenal. That's what I meant to say. I'm like, it was used in a lot of trailers. I'm trying to remember what the trailers were, but a lot of them had this music showcased. And the way the mutiny came about, like I said, you understand both men's motivation, so it's not like there's a clear enemy between the two. Although, truthfully, you find out at the end of the day, spoilers, that Denzel was right. That's why I don't understand at the end of the film where the higher ups are going, "You're both right and you're both wrong." I'm like, no, Denzel was right. Because if they did launch, there would have been a nuclear war. And what else was Denzel supposed to do? Like, by your shitty rules, you would have inadvertently caused a nuclear war. And if Denzel had not done what he did, like Gene Hackman was not going to let him get the time to get the message. He had no other choice but to lead a mutiny. I'm sitting there going, well, what did Denzel do that was wrong? No, he did everything right. Which is why at the end, you hear that Gene Hackman, he's going to retire, and he also told the higher ups, this guy deserves a command as soon as possible. But yeah, then at the end, he's like, you're right. But not about this, about the horses. They were from where you said they were. I'm like, no, Gene, you were wrong. See, that I didn't understand. I didn't understand the whole thing. No, what Gene was wrong. Gene Hackman's character was wrong. The movie saying that they were both wrong, both right, that made no fucking sense to me. Especially when you find out that what happened. So that one of the few issues I have with it. But the rest of it, like I said, it's well produced. You tell they had a budget behind it. They had definitely had the cooperation of the Navy. From what I heard, how they got cooperation was at first they said it was a script that was like 2001: A Space Odyssey, at least The Hunt for Red October, where there was some computer that was designed and it went AWOL, and it was about the crew trying to stop this computer from launching nukes. And then I just either that was never a real script, but they just bullshit their way to get the knowledge. And then they go, oh, well, actually, this is the real script because we don't want to tell them it's about mutiny. Because the Navy's like, there would never be a mutiny, and this disrespectful that you would assume that somehow this would happen. Like, they take that shit pretty serious. But although that would be kind of an interesting movie, 2001 meets Hunt for Red October. I'd see that movie, but I like the movie that we got. Just good actors, capable director, some nice tension, some good action scenes, submarine action with well done effects for its time, rousing music that really elevates the film a few more notches. Two powerhouse actors in Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington going head to head. And a very interesting what if question. You know, what would you do? And what if Denzel was wrong? What if Gene Hackman was right? Maybe we feel more towards Denzel because we know he was right, but if we find out Denzel was wrong, would we then sympathize with Denzel to begin with, or would we be more on Gene Hackman's side because that's the thing. Are we more on Denzel's side because he turned out to be correct? Yeah, I guess that's up to the viewer. Probably so, but And yeah, it does give you a bit more food for thought. Although I didn't, Denzel was right, so they weren't both right, and they weren't both wrong. And it's hard to do a submarine movie because there's a limited amount of stuff you could do within that one location where you're not going to have a lot of backdrop. It's pipes, it's control panels. So, I mean, there's not really much else you could fit into there, set dressing wise. And if you do it poorly, people do get bored because they're looking at the same type of backdrop over and over again. That's why you really have to showcase the claustrophobia and how deep they are and the danger of the outside assailants. And you really have to get into the characters and how, because you're in that situation, how tensions will definitely be a bunch of fuel for the fire. But yeah, it was nice to watch this again. It's very solid. It's been a while since I had seen this, and it was nice to revisit it again. Thanks to Dan. So thank you for that, man. Definitely worth a watch if you like any of these actors or you like the director. And we'll see you guys later. Bye bye.